What if I told you that procrastination is actually not self-sabotage? And what if I told you that there is no such thing as self-sabotage? You see, the problem is that we are trained to think in a very linear, in a very mechanistic kind of way, which is understandable. It comes from that strong reliance that we have on science. And the way we define science, like the way we define a scientific experiment, is anything that is repeatable is scientific. So if we have the same conditions and we apply the same procedure, then we get the same results. Then we call something scientific. So the problem is that human psyche, like being a human, there is no such thing as constant conditions. Like I'm never the same. I'm never the same human being. There is no two people that are the same people. We are not really like a pool of wires, like a machine where you need to push the right buttons. But we are more like, I guess, like a river that is constantly flowing, that looks the same from the outside, like from the distance, but it is never the same. It is ever changing. It is always in movement. I mean, consider this. There is no way to recall a memory without changing it. Isn't that amazing? Like every time you go into past experiences with your consciousness, what you do is you alter details, you add details, you change things every time. So there is no such thing as repeatable conditions when it comes to humans, and especially when it comes to emotions, because emotions are always in motion. So if you ever struggled with procrastination, you have probably tried typing it in YouTube or Google search or whatever, and you would get a listicle kind of piece of content where you have techniques like the pomodoro technique, or you have tips like remember your why, like why you're doing it, and remove all the distractions and dumbify your phone, whatever. These are all valid techniques. But the fact that these are just techniques, and the fact that humans are so different, makes it that there is no reliable, repeatable recipe that you can just do steps 1, 2, 3, and then you're done. And we're going to get deeper into this, so stick with me. So if you remember that sketch with the psychiatrist who always charges $5 for 5 minutes and he never takes longer than 5 minutes, there's this woman coming to him and she shares her problems. It was something like she's afraid of being buried alive in a box or something like that. And then he tells her, yeah, he will give her 2 words, and she was going to write them down. And then he tells her, stop it. And I mean, why is this funny? Why do we consider this funny? Because obviously, of course, we tried to stop it. Of course, everybody who has alcohol addiction tried to stop. He didn't manage. Of course, everybody who wants to stop drinking coffee tried it and didn't manage. So the question is, what is underneath that, right? So I'm not going to offer you another method. I'm not going to tell you do this and then you will achieve that. Instead, I want to offer a shift in thinking and in approaching yourself while dealing with addictions or procrastination, which is essentially a form of addiction. So imagine that there is like a 10-year-old boy who is angry. The mechanistic worldview would tell you, okay, he's angry, he's loud, I want him to be quiet. There is a thing, A, that I can do to get result B. So I'm going to tell him, stop it. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to get louder until he shuts up. Instinctively, most of us feel or know that this just doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like what we should do with children. So what most parents, if they take their time, if they're not like super stressed and have their own issues, which unfortunately most do, then a parent would sit down with the child and be like, what makes you angry? Like, what is this about? So you would open a container and you would listen, which is the absolute opposite way of approaching something. This is not the mechanistic kind of, I need to apply force, I need to do something in order to achieve a result, but it's more like, I let go of the expectation, I let go of the outcome that I desire, and I focus on listening, I focus on taking in what I perceive. I will get to why this is important in a minute, but what is happening here is we shift from a more masculine way of approaching the human being, in this case, the child, to a more feminine way. And what happens is, by virtue of holding space, by virtue of opening that container, the child transforms. Like, there is no way that he will keep being angry when you do that. At some point it will resolve. At some point there will be a moment where he feels heard and he goes through that emotional wave, and the wave regulates, and emotions are made to pass. They are not made to endure. So it's kind of counterintuitive, because what you do is let go of trying to make him quiet, and what you achieve is that he gets quiet by himself. So one important thing, as we all know, that you cannot fake this. Like, you cannot approach a child and be like, okay, I will sit down with you and I will listen, but you do not actually feel like listening. They will notice. And in that case, rest assured, it will not work. He will just keep being angry or will annoy you in some other way. So when dealing with procrastination, it is literally the same thing. It is not about a 10-year-old child in front of you, but is about your own inner children, if you will. So it's about caretaking an emotional part that has not, that just doesn't feel heard and is trying to get your attention by sabotaging your behavior, which is not real sabotage because it's in your favor in the end, because this is not somebody else, this is still you. So this is always about learning something new about yourself, and this is how we have to approach this. So we have to have the same attitude of curiosity, and there is literally like hundreds of methods to do this. It can be as complex as doing systemic constellation work or hypnosis or whatever, you name it. It can be as simple as meditating, that can sometimes work, or journaling. But the attitude is the thing that matters. So if you sit down to meditate with the attitude of, I need to fix this, there's something wrong with me, then you are still holding on to that certain outcome that you want to have, and you're not being fully present with what is. So being present with what is a skill that can be practiced and can be learned. But sometimes it's really tough, and sometimes there is a sort of shame, a sort of belief that says something is not okay with me, that sits on top of the actual thing that we're trying to get to. it's as if we are not having the conversation about, okay, what does my inner child need? But more like we're having another child screaming on top of that, going like, hey, I don't even want to talk to you, I don't even want to tell you what I need because I feel like something is wrong about me. I feel like I'm being wronged. So in that case, you would want to deal with that first and maybe journal about that, or talk to somebody about like, hey, I would love to look at my procrastination, but I feel like I cannot even look at it because I just think something is wrong with me. So you always have to work with the layer that is in front of you, as you do with actual children. You deal with what you have in front of you. You do not force any sort of thing you want to be doing or you think they should be doing. And with that approach of, which is basically a form of unconditional love, of unconditional acceptance, we can acknowledge what is going on and it can be revealed to us. The assumption that we work with here, and this has shown to be true, like in 100% of the times that at least I'm aware of, is that we're trying to get that part on board. Like the main structure of how we humans function is that when we feel like some part of us is not accepted, which happens often in childhood or in school when we are shamed for stuff, then we try to hide it. And the most efficient way of hiding something from others is to hide it from ourselves. So it gets suppressed and it hides in the unconscious, but it still operates and it is still present and it screams for attention. So whenever there is a behavior that you do not like about yourself and you want to change it and you cannot change it at will, means that there is always a split in your consciousness and there is always at least two parts that you work with. The part that says, I do not want to be procrastinating. Why am I doing this? And the other part there is like, I would tell you why, but you are not listening. So when we create these settings where that other part can feel safe to actually express itself, you might start crying, you might feel like get shivers, you might get really angry, like whatever. You're just open to whatever comes up. And in 100% of the cases, you will learn something about yourself. You will figure out, oh, I didn't know that actually that and this was important to me and I totally forgot about it. Or actually I needed to feel how much pain I had when I was a child, or there is something that you need to catch up in order to get that part on board. And as soon as you get it on board, then your inner team sort of all the parts are pulling in the same direction, walking in the same direction. So there is no split anymore. So there is no need for procrastination and it will just eliminate itself. The thing that I cannot emphasize enough is that you cannot fake this. Even when you're doing this work with yourself, listening to a part of you, you cannot do this on paper with your mind, because this is about your nervous system. This is about a feeling of emotional safety. And for us human beings, even things that look so simple, like little and seemingly insignificant experiences that we made with our parents like 40 years ago, whatever, this stuff is big. So if you're struggling to get into that process, and if you are, like most of us are, kind of biased towards solving things in our mind instead of actually feeling what is going on inside of us, obviously there's lots of methods of doing that, and you can learn that, and I'm teaching these things. But one thing that you can do is take 2 chairs, put them in front of each other with like a meter distance or whatever, as if you would have two people facing each other, talking to each other. But you do that alone, and you just sit on one of the chairs, and then you imagine that you have that inner child, that wounded part of you, that part that screams at you, that part that causes the procrastination in front of you. And then you might start a conversation. You might ask them, hey, like, why are you doing that? What is so important to you? And then you stand up and you sit on that other chair and you just see what happens. Maybe nothing happens. Maybe you will feel something, an itch, like, I don't know, somewhere, or you will feel tension in your belly, or maybe you will get an image in when you close your eyes, and the memory might come up. Something might happen. And maybe there's something that needs to be expressed. Maybe you will just embody resistance and go like, I don't want to talk to you. All that, anything that happens is information. Even if nothing happens, it is information. You stand up, you go back to that other chair, and then you react as you would react if it were a real child. If nothing happened, how does that make you feel? Like, what is your natural reaction to that? Is there something like a question popping up? Like, why are you not talking to me? Is there maybe you want to ask the question again? Maybe you try to tune in to that part and feel what it needs. Maybe it needs you to back off a little bit and maybe even stop asking questions and being more like, okay, I see you do not seem to be in the mood for talking, are you? And then you switch places again, and then you see what happens now, and you go back and forth. This helps to kind of get out of the mind and try to solve everything in your head, and gets you more into the body and to actually feel what is going on. And you have to be really slow with this, because we are so trained to be very, very fast and very, very efficient. And the mind is very fast, but emotions take a bit more time. And sometimes you just need to sit a little bit and maybe focus on your breath and just see what is going on in your body. And if there is something like a slight hint of something, you can amplify that just because it then becomes more readable. Like if you feel a bit of tension in your jaw, just follow it, follow that impulse. And maybe you have to tense up your jaw, and then maybe by doing that, a further impulse will come. So following these threads, you can discover a lot about yourself and about your reasons why you're procrastinating. So I promised to not give you another method now. I gave you another method. So enjoy, and I hope that was helpful. And I thank you for listening, and take good care.